Jessica, I know that you all were working together on a project while you were in your last position. I myself have been following this work sneakily over social media for a while now. For everyone on today's call, could you please give us a little bit more background about your connection to Charleen and Shannon?
Yes, I would love to, Janelle. I am so pleased to be welcoming you, Chef Charleen and Shannon, to our call today and helping share your amazing work with everyone. As Jen mentioned earlier, I joined the Lunch Assist team from the Arizona Department of Education, Health and Nutrition Services Division. And one of the projects I was most excited and passionate about that we worked on is called Kitchen Creations, which is a USDA grant to develop standardized recipes for school meals featuring locally grown Indigenous ingredients. And we teamed up with Chef Charleen of the Blue Watermelon Project to take recipes submitted by school communities that feature these ingredients and standardize them for school meals. Shannon Reina of Salt River Schools joined in as one of the school partners in the Kitchen Creations project, and she submitted a personal recipe to be included in the project. Let me tell you guys, these recipes are so tasty. It was so much fun getting to test them in the kitchen and learn the history of these ingredients. So again, we're excited to have you both here to share about your experience in the project and creating Indigenous recipes for school meal service. So Chef Charleen, I will start with you. I know and love the Blue Watermelon Project. I've been following your work for years and have been fortunate to work with you on a few initiatives with the Department of Ed. But for our friends on the call today, would you tell us a little bit about the Blue Watermelon Project and what inspired you to start it?
Thank you very much for having me. It started about 13 years ago, just simply with a school principal walking into my restaurant that I had just opened with a plant and a letter asking me if I would come to their school and teach a cooking lesson. When they would do it was during their lunch period, so about 20 minutes. And I said, yes, I'll go and do a class. And so I arrived, taught the class while the students were having their lunch and somewhat participating, but definitely paying attention and then having a little something to eat. And it was in their small garden at the time, which has now become a very large garden. This is at Echo Canyon, which is in the Scottsdale Unified School District. It's public school and as was at the time called Arcadia Neighborhood Learning Center. It's run by Ann and Lou Rodarte. They run the gardens there every day, and it just continued to develop. I remember saying, when can I come back? And because I just saw how much joy it brought. And we were able to go from doing this during their lunch period to, say, a specials class. And then sometimes because we've continued to develop in the last 12, 13 years, we've included curriculum. So we've been able to be part of their learning process through the day and have more or less an hour of their time in order to have a garden focused class. And what I did was I was part of the James Beard Foundation has a boot camp, and I was able to attend that. And really what it did, this is in 2015, it brought a lot of focus to the vision that I had, which was that I wanted to have more chefs participating in more schools. So in 2016, we kind of formalized it and became Blue Watermelon Project. And I was able to ask more chefs to be part of what I was doing, the vision I had, that I wanted to have more chefs out there, being able to be in schools and sometimes having the opportunity of being in the cafeteria and helping because I felt like, we had something to offer, and whether it was with the students or working in a partnership with the food service professionals. So I was also, like you mentioned, asked to be part of Kitchen Creations and last year, and that enabled us to develop recipes, work on recipes, 50 or so that were submitted and then brought down to 13, but be able to standardize them. So that was continuing to be the work that we wanted to see happen, and obviously we want to continue working in schools, whether it's through the garden focus with the students or in the cafeteria.
I love all of that, Chef Charleen. And like Janelle and Jessica, I'm a huge Blue Watermelon Project fan. I actually attended your Feeding the Future event right before the shutdowns, and it was amazing. I read an article in the Phoenix New Times where it said you believe it's harder to develop a recipe for a school cafeteria than it is for your award-winning restaurant F&B. Can you share more of that perspective with us? Like, what surprised you the most about coming from the restaurant side of things to school food service?
I mean, the most is obviously the dollar amount, the budget that you have. I obviously have a budget because I'm running a business with my restaurant, but it does not have a ceiling. I'm able to add a dollar on if something becomes more expensive. I'm able to change something or not offer something because maybe it doesn't get delivered to me. And that's not the case in food service for students. You know, you have to have milk, you have to have certain ingredients, you're going to have minimums and maximum equivalents, salt. Oh my goodness. Salt's a tough one. When we were working on the recipes, constantly having to scale it back, and then working on ways that we could really make something shine, whether it was the tepary bean, the stew, how we could possibly take out the salt, but still make this something that we were going to be excited about and taste good and really bright. And so as a chef saying, let's add acid to this because it's going to really bring some excitement to this dish and really brighten the dish for the students, but it's not going to bring the salt level up. But I just have really a lot of respect and appreciation for the food service coordinators who have to work on developing recipes or using recipes, and maybe an ingredient doesn't show up, especially in these last couple of years with supply and how our chain has been broken and something not showing up. I'm just able to take something off of a menu. I'm able to, again, like I said, add a dollar. If I want to give a raise to somebody, add a dollar. And nobody's going to complain. Nobody's going to tell me I can't do that. And my budget is just so different. And while restaurateurs, may talk about how thin the margins are, it's just they have no idea until you're in a cafeteria and you see a lot thinner margins.
Yeah, sure.
Yes, I remember being in the kitchen with you and the sad look on your face when I told you we had to keep taking out salt and changing the components and all of that.
Definitely. I think Tamara mentioned publicly that she thinks she saw a tear in my eye.
Yes.
How much, what now?
It's very sad to be the nutrition police with the chefs, but turning to Shannon. So tell us a little bit about what inspired you to participate in this project and what it's meant to you to introduce traditional ingredients and recipes to students on the school menu.
What inspired me, I guess, just being a lunch lady. I mean, we use the food buying guide and standardized recipes every day. And so when I heard about this project and I was asked to be a part of it, I was excited. I'm like, oh my gosh, and for one of our recipes to be included was really exciting. It's a huge lunch lady nerd deal. I don't know, but it was just really exciting for me. And but the fact that it focused on Indigenous food also was really a huge deal for me, because a lot of these items are, foods that my family cooked, all through the years. My grandma cooking the tepary beans on the stove, or my grandma Reina making tortillas on the fire. So it's really it means a lot as a Native person, and to be able to see these and possibly being standardized is a big deal. And also for Salt River Schools, to bring something that was created in here in our kitchens for the students is really a big deal. It just would mean a lot to me for that to happen. So I hope people are really liking the recipe and that it makes it to the recipe book.
Thanks for sharing all that, Shannon. It's my understanding that your district has been doing student taste testing with multiple local Indigenous ingredients, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what are some of the recipes you've tested with the students so far, and what's been their response?
We tried blue corn mush. USDA a few years back was able to provide blue corn meal to some of the schools with the brown box program. So we were able to get some blue corn mush meal, and we actually used it in a STEM project. You know, and then so we added it, we sampled it to our students, and it always, they really loved the blue corn. And then we had another school had a recipe for it in the Kitchen Creations project, and that was two different types, the one with fruit, and then another one with squash and corn. And they're both really good, but they really liked the blue corn. Also, of course, the teparine bowl, our students really love it. The whole community really enjoys that recipe. Tortillas, of course, or chumat was tortilla for us here, the autumn. Everybody loves tortilla. That went over really well. I think that was one of the favorites. Yeah.
So, Charleen, we, speaking of these delicious dishes, we have some photos that we can share for the audience to see, but of the recipes that you've worked on throughout this project, which ones are you most excited about?
You have a few of them pictured here. So the ones, definitely the blue corn muffin that we did with the blueberries was really tasty. That came from just working. I had made the cornbread that actually Brigade makes for a school, and it was actually with a class, I say a class, but it was with the food service workers at a school down in Southern Arizona at Palomino, and they said, you know, this would be great for breakfast if it was a muffin and had blueberries in it. And then when we started working with Kitchen Creations and adding the kind of just thinking about what they had said and having the blue corn meal, it came together really well. The triple berry parfait, I believe, Shannon, that is also yours as well, with the wheat berries in it. It is so filling. It's brilliant. Instead of adding like sweetened granola, adding the wheat berries in there is just a great idea. And again, it was delicious. We ate lots of those while we were kind of developing the recipe, while we were working on cost, because obviously it was came in a lot more expensive with fresh fruit, but working with fruit that we could make that was frozen and make into a compote worked really well. The tepary bean bowl, Shannon, that you have as well is definitely one of my top favorites. I have had it from another school that has already made it and did it through their lunch program, and it's a great idea. The brown rice and then the tepary beans, but utilizing your salad bar for the toppings is just great. It comes together so well. I think bowls are something that students really would enjoy. The Three Sisters Enchiladas too, really been working on a tomatillo recipe. Kind of got schooled on when somebody comes back to you, a food service coordinator comes back to you and says, I don't have a stove, I don't have a burner. So about changing the recipe over to be able to make it completely in an oven and then just blend it, but so many flavors and deliciousness with that. And then also the white bean vegetable stew was really delicious. And then being able to alternate the vegetables depending on the seasons is always something that's really important to me. And those are the ones I had to narrow it down to. It was, you know, like picking kids. So because they all were things that we really loved. And but these were definitely the favorites, and the tepary bean is definitely, the bowl was definitely the top one. For a chef, you're always working on developing recipes that have a story behind them, and Shannon's story behind that bowl just it makes it taste even better.
Well, I love all of that. And everything looks delicious. Shannon, I'm gonna come visit you if you don't mind and try it all. I can't wait. Shannon, our final question is for you. What is one piece of advice that you would give to someone listening in today who also wants to honor and feature Indigenous foods on their menu?
I would say to be respectful to those items, and just honor them. Learn the history behind them, learn their story behind them. A lot of the foods have a story in the community, or even just personally. Like for me, the story of that particular bean is my grandma. When I taste it, it's just all comfort, and it reminds me of my grandma cooking it for us. But just learn the history, and when you're using it in recipes or as an ingredient, make sure you acknowledge it. Just like they have the land acknowledgement, I would acknowledge it in your recipes, or in your schools if you're giving out samples or adding it to your menu. Add that note on there that this is an ingredient from this particular tribe, and this is how they used it, or this, they live here in this area. Just be respectful of it, and well, how do they say, appreciate, don't appropriate.
Yeah, I think those are really important points, and I appreciate your insight on all of that. So thank you so much, Shannon. And Chef Charleen, Shannon, thank you so much just for being a part of today and just sharing some really cool things that are happening here in Arizona. You both are Arizona State gems, and we appreciate you so much.